we're getting there. It's slow, we're getting there. I feel like I'm so far.
Okay, ladies, we're starting.
Not now.
Well, no.
Oh, I was gonna say.
I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you,
we have slide one up.
I can't tell whether my mic is on. Can you give me a volume and see if I'm on? 1, 2, 1, 2, I'm on. Okay. You hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't tell if the power's on. Yeah, so I feel like I have a bunch of stuff to just, where are we? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Cynthia's been going through old music and she's bringing it to my house and I'm like,
Stop.
you know what, if we haven't done this in 40 years,
We're not. Are we on? Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and I'm glad you're here with us this morning. Here in this urban community, we welcome all with love, support learning and spiritual growth, serve our wider community, and work for justice, equity, and inclusion. If you'd like to learn more about our community and our programming, please contact us at member-care@firstuu.com. We begin our service by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith, with these words by Reverend Dr. Natalie Maxwell Fenimore. We seek to be a home for all who desire our company. We seek to make a welcome for all those in search of our good news. Come, come, little children, teens, young adults, elders. Come, families in great diversity. Come into this loving home and safe harbor, but not to find a place to escape the world. This is a community of engagement and of creativity. We come together to create boldly and dangerously. We must create the beloved community with an awareness of how difficult it is, because it is deep ministry. It is ministry that challenges us to bring our whole selves and engage deeply and for the long haul. Our faith, Our tradition must call us into community. Our task is to create spaces where we might know and value each other. Let us listen to our stories.
Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram X. Kendi, illustrated by Ashley Lukashevsky. Anti-Racist Baby is bred, not born. Anti-Racist Baby is raised to make society transform. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equity a reality. 1. Open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-Racist Baby learns all the colors, not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. 2. Use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we only stay silent. If we don't name racism, it won't stop being so violent. 3. Point at policies as the problem, not people. Some people get more while others get less, because policies don't always grant equal access. 4. Shout. There's nothing wrong with the people. Even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human, Anti-Racist Baby can proclaim. 5. Celebrate all our differences. Anti-Racist Baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-Racist Baby loves a world that's truly diverse. 6. Knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Anti-Racist Baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, and create as they choose. Anti-Racist Baby welcomes all groups, voicing their unique views. 7. Confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. 8. Grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-Racist Baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-Racist Baby stays curious about all people and isn't all-knowing. 9. Believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend, and doesn't judge a book by its cover, but reads until the end. I wonder, which of these 9 steps are hardest for you to remember? Open your eyes to all skin colors. Use your words to talk about race. Point at policies as the problem, not people. Shout, "There's nothing wrong with the people." Celebrate all differences. Knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Confess when being racist. Grow to be anti-racist. Or believe we shall overcome racism.
Hello, this is Heather Zoller with a Canvas campaign update from Carol and myself. The campaign officially ended at the end of March, and we thought you might like an update on how we did. First of all, thank you so much to those of you who pledged. So many of you pledged early, to our many canvassers who do such a great job, as well as Carrie Speece, Reverend Connie, Shelley Wallace, and many others who have helped Carol and I during this process. Thank you again for your pledges that support our mission and our operation, helping us shine our light with our congregation and with the larger community. So how did we do? We had a goal in this particularly tough year of $391,000 and some change. And currently we have pledges of about $350,000. So there are still some people who haven't pledged. So if you haven't, and again, whatever amount that it might be, you can simply enter that on the First Church website on our giving page, the 2122 pledge drive. And there's also a site there where you can just send an email. And please do remember that you can leave a note if you're uncertain, you're unsure, and that you can always adjust your pledge throughout the year if that's necessary. But again, thank you so much to everyone, and I hope you have a great Sunday.
This is the time in our service when we honor and acknowledge the joys and the sorrows that have been part of our lives since last we were together. We do this by dropping stones in water. The stones represent the cares, the worries, the joys, and the happy things that happen to us. The water represents the healing power of community. This particular water was blessed by this community during water communion. At the start of the church year, beginning in 2018, you each put a drop of water into a common vase, and with it you shared what you bring to our community, whether it's love or peace or joy or music or curiosity. And then we added to that water in 2019. We're still using that same water. So it's full of the blessings of all those who have come through these doors in the last couple of years. And this morning we begin by honoring our sorrows. For those who are ill, who are lonely, who are frightened, who are troubled or scared, we drop a stone that the water may soothe their sorrows. And for those who've experienced joy, we drop another stone in our water that their gladness may be amplified. And another stone for all the things we don't know, for all the names we don't know, for all the experiences that we don't know, that we just aren't aware that happened. Because after all, there is so much of life that we don't know. And in that vein, I invite you to join me as we share this meditation by Susan Sahoki, entitled All That We Do Not Know. Day by day, month by month, year by year, we are confronted with all that we do not know, that we do not understand, that we do not grasp. Sometimes we're humbled by this knowledge and say, God, it's too wonderful for me to comprehend, but I know this universe is more grand and more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. And I give thanks for the blessing of being here and seeing, hearing, experiencing, and sensing all that is so wonderful around and in me. Sometimes we are saddened by this knowledge and say, oh, merciful Spirit, we need to have the burden of hurt and suffering removed from us. Grant us the courage, the wisdom, and the fortitude to bear the pain of living. Send us those who will carry our burdens for a short while, and send us those who will comfort us with their healing words and thoughts. Sometimes we are angered by this knowledge and say, in the name of justice and compassion, if it be in our power, give us the strength and the ability to right the wrongs, for we do not, nor does any person in the world deserve this. Sometimes we are made joyous by this knowledge and we say, Spirit of life who blesses our world, we rejoice and cheer for our glorious life. Sometimes we are made curious by this knowledge and say, holy and inexplicable is this life. I have no idea what happened or how it happened, but somehow, some way, something changed, and I am free to explore new ways of being. Please always let me continue to search for the unknown in myself and others. Please join me now in a moment of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer as we enjoy this lovely flower from Jane Hobson, given in celebration of spring and new life.
Good morning. I'm Jane Hobson with your April Board Moment. In this, our year of discovery, we've reached the spring, a time of new beginnings and of renewal. This seems a good time to talk about our nominating committee and the process for renewing our Board of Trustees by adding 3 new leaders to replace Ginny Casey Leininger, David Johnson, and current Board President Dee Steele, the 3 valued board members who are completing their 3-year terms. The current nominating committee is chaired by Becky Algenio with members Jan Conley, Bruce Hobbs, Jim Powell, and Patricia Rohr. 4 of the members serve 2-year terms, with 2 elected by the congregation at each spring congregational meeting. In addition, a departing board member serves a 1-year term. During the past year, Ginny Casey Leininger has also served as board liaison to the committee. The nominating committee typically begins its work in January of the year, entirely through Zoom in 2021. The first step is to solicit input from many persons who are in leadership positions. These include the 6 board members who will be continuing for the coming year, Reverend Connie, committee chairs, staff members, and past presidents. Such questions as, what skills will the board be losing as these 3 members leave? What issues are important to address in the next few years? And who might you recommend for consideration for a board position are asked of them. Using this input, the committee prioritizes needed skills for the board and suggested names, trying to have balanced representation of gender, age, diversity of life experiences, and perspectives. Then conversations are held with selected congregation members to talk about their interest in serving and their thoughts on a range of issues. From these conversations, a slate of board nominees is developed. This year, some unique challenges for the new board were identified. Among them are approving and implementing new bylaws, refining our stewardship, adopting new technologies, transitioning back to our historic First Church building, being part of the Avondale development, and believe it or not, providing for Reverend Connie's first sabbatical. And I'm quite certain new challenges will also arise. I want to thank the current nominating committee for all the efforts on our behalf. And I want to thank Amy Bottomley, Barbara Dickerson, and Kim Clokey, who have offered their time, talents, and energy to serve on our Board of Trustees. Please be sure to read their biographies and to attend our May 23rd congregational meeting to be part of the important decision about who will join our board to represent the members of our beloved community. Thank you.
Giving to First Church is easy. There are several ways you can contribute to the work that happens both inside and outside these walls. You can text GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to our Breeze member system, you can click Give Now. Anyone can donate online at firstuu.com or by mailing a check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio 45219. Every month, our offering is designated for an organization or cause or issue that affects our community. For the month of April, our Share the Plate offering will go to the Reverend WHG and Beulah Carter Social Justice Fund. This fund allows First Church to support financially several smaller organizations and not so small organizations around the city, particularly in the Avondale area, that are doing the work of justice, equity, and inclusion. If you would like your gift to be designated for the Carter Social Justice Fund, you'll have the ability to indicate that on your giving, whether by text or online. If you are writing a check, you can indicate that in the memo line of your check. If this is your first time visiting us, we invite you to let the virtual offering pass you by. Your presence is your gift to us, Our offering will now be gratefully received. How many of us have thought about a problem and then said something like, I probably won't see that solved in my lifetime? You know, things like a world with no war, an end to fossil fuels, no more hunger, safe and affordable housing for everyone. How many times have you thought about one of those things and said, not likely to happen in my lifetime? Yesterday, I participated in a 6-hour webinar on covenant. Covenant repair, restoral, and renewal, to be specific. There were more than 250 UUs from all over the country online. Lay leaders, ministers, members, and just folks who are curious. A few from Cincinnati. We were put in small breakout rooms over the course of the day to discuss accountability and responsibility and other issues. One person in my group said to us, "Who gets to say that racial justice and an end to oppression isn't going to happen in my lifetime? Who gets to say that it is going to happen in my lifetime?" And then they said, "I do." They turned the question on its head. They were making a statement right then and there that they were ready to do the work needed to create beloved community, that it couldn't be put off any longer, that someone had to put a stake in the ground, and it was going to be them. The thought hadn't even occurred to me to phrase it that way. Although my faith is strong and I have lots of hope, I'm also probably twice that person's age and have a few more years of battle scars and maybe even some built-up cynicism about whether change is really possible. I'm not the only one, I know. Many of you have come to me over the last 3 years and asked, ever move forward? How can I stay encouraged in the face of resistance and setbacks? I know, it's hard, my friends. Folks right here in this city, in this community, have made some microaggressive, some macro-aggressive comments about the inclusion initiatives of this church and of the larger Unitarian Universalist movement. Likened my ministry to pickled pig's feet. Suggested that we shouldn't invite people of color into our congregation. I gotta tell you, it's hard not to take these comments personally. And then there are some who just want to forget it and move on. Focus on more important things. But I have to ask you, what is more important than fulfilling our mission? If everything we do isn't somehow connected to our mission, then why are we here? Besides, we can't, as a congregation, as a society, as a country, keep sweeping things under the rug, either hoping they'll go away or pretending that they don't exist. We owe it to ourselves, to our children, and to those who come after us to do the hard work. To look at ourselves in the mirror, even when that means that we are sitting in discomfort. To explore with curiosity the things we do not know. To question the things we think we know for sure. To do the work that is necessary to raise anti-racist babies. To honor the living tradition that is Unitarian Universalism by continuing to evolve and grow and work to transform the world. We are continuing our discussion of widening the circle of concern, the report of the Unitarian Universalist Commission on Institutional Change. The commission noted that we live in a world of change, and that pace of change is now at an unprecedented level, accelerated by shifts in global economics and demographics as the world adjusts to a world economy, and as the U.S. prominence in that economy drops, signaling an end of empire. What does that mean for us as a nation? It means that our population is shifting. Black people, indigenous people, and people of color represent a greater share of the population than ever before. In 2019, the U.S. Census Bureau announced that for the first time, non-whites and Hispanics were a majority of people under the age of 16. In fact, non-Hispanic whites are expected to be a minority of the U.S. population in only 25 years. But by the way, it's already that way worldwide. Those of Asian, African, Latin American, and Arab descent are the global majority, making up 80% of the world's population. What else did the commission learn? They learned that newer generations are more interested in using direct lived experience as the basis of worship, rather than academic frameworks. That younger families are facing extreme stress because of increased workloads and greater economic insecurity. That technology has changed expectations for the kind and quality of worship among newer generations. These newer generations expect to see a diversity of voices and opinions represented in worship, as well as the multicultural competency that they learned in school and are expected to have in the workplace. What does this mean for us? It means we need to re-envision how we worship, how we come together, how we are together. That's why we've embarked on this year of discovery. And I know it's a tough subject for many of you. It's a tough subject for folks in congregations all over the country. I heard it in the webinar yesterday. I hear it in the UU history classes I teach. I hear it from other religious professionals. It's scary. For some folks, everything they've known, their own privilege, is being questioned, threatened even. And they're digging in, becoming even more entrenched, replying to being called into covenant by stating their good intentions or who they know, as if it somehow justifies their statements, or by accusing folks of cancel culture or political correctness. Honestly, it hurts my heart. It just hurts. Why is it cancel culture to want to create a community where everyone is seen, where everyone is heard, and everyone matters, not just those of the dominant group? As part of the commission's work, they issued a call for personal testimony. They collected more than 80 hours of audio and video recordings and more than 650 pages of documents from more than 1,100 participants. From the materials collected, they created 5 avatars to represent the themes they saw represented in strong and consistent patterns. I invite you to listen to the story of one of those avatars now.
John E. Pickett, cisgender man, heterosexual. Greetings, commissioners. I am writing in response to the call for testimony about member experiences with racism. I am copying Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, as I have been in contact with her regarding my dismay at the direction our beloved association is heading by adopting dangerous authoritarian ideas like critical race theory, critical race theology, rejecting logic, and promoting dangerous and disrespectful persons to leadership. By way of introduction, I am a 4th-generation Unitarian, my family having begun in the faith at the church served by Reverend William Ellery Channing. I am a retired county executive, councilman, during which time I passed an ordinance to rename a local road Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, professor, former congregational president, and district leader. I have served in various other roles, including religious education chair and chair of the Social Action Committee. During the 60s and 70s, I marched for racial justice and the student anti-war movement, risking jail time as well as life and limb to speak up for my fellow Americans. I was a supporter of the Black Affairs Council and wrote a strong letter of disapproval to the moderator regarding the failure of leadership after the Black empowerment controversy. I am proud to say that things have improved considerably, both in the world and within Unitarian Universalism. In my own life, I have seen many engineers, police officers, and elected officials who were not Caucasian males, a big change. some of whom were even openly homosexual. Currently, my primary physician, physical therapist, and home health aide are all black. My daughter is a pilot breaking out of traditional jobs for her gender. I have personally hired both men and women of color in various subordinate positions. And I worked tirelessly to call our first openly gay director of religious education. Of course, more could be done. However, I believe it would be a great shame to destroy the excellent work so many have produced, as it seems your approach is insistent on doing. Another troubling idea being pushed by the Commission is cultural misappropriation. Within our congregation, we've happily celebrated Day of the Dead and Juneteenth, and we regularly sing African American spirituals, despite having no black members in our choir. Though I should add, we have 2 black people in our congregation. If these should be seen as great strides toward learning and reconciliation, not demonized and barred by illiberal fascist edicts from the UUA. Am I not allowed to eat bagels because I have no Jewish ancestors? Can I not listen to Chopin if I am not Polish? Should we bar our African Americans from attending our 4th of July services? The current direction of the UUA and groups like the Commission exacerbates the divisions when we should be minimizing differences and focusing on unity. My minority friends and many who are black and gay want to be accepted as people, not seen as part of groups or victims. Reasonable people of color will not join a faith that stereotypes them with identity politics. Caucasians will not join a church where they are called white supremacists, like the KKK or skinheads, and many will decide to leave if that happens. The association will collapse financially. We must get our faith back in line with the principles of liberalism, democracy, and critical thought.
Yeah. Those comments are actually representative of folks within Unitarian Universalism. And there's one thing in that avatar, a couple of things that I'd like to address, because I've heard it here in these walls. That the Unitarian Universalist Association is somehow forcing us to do this work. It's not true. No one is imposing edicts from on high. The association doesn't work that way because we are the Unitarian Universalist Association. It is, its full name, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. It is an association of more than 1,000 congregations, communities, societies, and covenanting groups across the country. And every year, each of these groups sends delegates to General Assembly to vote on the initiatives, the directions, and the policies of the association. Members of those churches, those delegate members who were in attendance, which have included members of this congregation for many, many, many years, voted to support this work. And this is not about ignoring or excluding anyone. This is about our collective liberation. This is about making space at the table for everyone. It's about living into that mission statement that you all wrote, welcoming all with love, supporting learning and spiritual growth, serving our wider community, and working for justice, equity, and inclusion. Inclusion of folks of all races and ethnicities, all ages, people of every gender identity, every sexual orientation, people who have a lot of money and people who don't, people who have kids and people who don't. Inclusion of all of us, no matter our theological opinions and positions. This is about making space for those people who wrote me lovely emails and letters thanking me for mentioning Jesus and not being afraid to say the word God during our Easter service. And it doesn't mean that we are becoming Christian. It simply means that we can listen to all the stories, even the ones that are not our own. We can learn and grow spiritually. We do the work of justice, equity, and inclusion even when it involves innovation and risk-taking and pushes us beyond our comfort zone. This is the tradition of Unitarianism, the tradition of universalism. This is the tradition of Unitarian Universalism. It started back in the very, very beginning with Arius at the Council of Nicaea, refusing to believe that God exists in three separate personalities and seeing that there is one God. This is part of our heritage that we see in Poland and in Europe around the time of the Reformation. This is that kind of learning and growing and thinking and innovation that Michael Servetus and Francis David were part of 500 years ago. And after all, in these spaces where we are innovative, where we think differently, where we're willing to take risks and do differently and be different, that's where the real creativity and transformation happens.
White accomplice avatar. Genevieve Mills, white, cisgender woman, heterosexual. When I was in seminary in the late 1970s, one of the requirements was to take a course in non-Western religion. I enrolled in a course on Native American spirituality and tradition. A leader advising the seminarians informed me that it was not going to meet the MFC requirement for a non-Western religion. I protested, saying that indeed it was non-Western, and he responded by implying that it was not a real religion. I was furious and voiced my objection, yet he would not reconsider. It was one of the first times I started to realize how many people don't see their white supremacy / settler colonial attitudes in action. Who is he to decide what is a real religion? I joined my current UU congregation about 10 years ago when I moved here for a new job. I've spent most of my career working with adolescents and had the chance to join an organization working on reentry programs for youth offenders. My work gave me a close-up look at the vagaries and biases in the criminal justice system, and I started to learn to identify systemic racism. I joined my congregation's social justice committee after the shooting of Michael Brown and the uprising in Ferguson. Michael Brown was the same age as many of my clients, and his loss felt personal to me. At the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, I knew we needed to get more white people engaged in changing these systems. I advocated for hanging a Black Lives Matter banner on our congregation's building when the call went out for congregations to support the movement with this action in the early 2015. Our committee debated the idea for a few meetings, and then we had to do congregational education before asking for a congregational vote. I was new to organizing work, and found the gathering of signatures and conversations with my fellow congregants to be very informative about the range of views and level of understanding about racism in our country and our city. We had a lay service about white privilege in which 3 members shared their stories about the harm they had done to friends of color when they acted without acknowledging their privilege. It was very powerful and moving. So by the time the congregation voted, there were only 3 dissenters. So I was completely surprised and bitterly disappointed when the board said they didn't want to participate in the white supremacy teach-in just 2 years later. Our Social Justice Committee was working with the Religious Education Director and Worship Committee to make it happen when we got shut down without a real explanation. We had gone together to the board meeting as a courtesy to let them know about our plans because they didn't usually get engaged on matters of our Sunday services. The board thought we had already done enough work, and the framing of white supremacy made them very uneasy. I was angry and tired and sad. We'd done so much educational work in the congregation, and to be stopped in our tracks was tough, really tough. I have to admit I wasn't my best self when I called the board in on their cowardice and lack of support for our justice work. I told them centering their comfort was not what we needed in that moment. But our group wasn't successful, and we were one of the few congregations that didn't participate. I found a congregation in a nearby town that did participate and went to their service. I've attended services there a few times since, and while I've kept up with my social justice committee work, the lack of support and enthusiasm for leadership for the work has made me reconsider whether that congregation is still a good place for me. I need a community commitment to justice inside and outside the congregation.
This avatar represents what is possible when we allow ourselves to be open to doing this work. Yes, there's some frustration when it doesn't seem that the work is moving fast enough. But you heard that story of transformation. You heard what is possible when we allow ourselves to be open to new ideas. As the Commission states in its report, research shows that children and people of all ages need positive and empowering conversations about race to overcome bias and internalized oppression. We need to have those conversations. Our theological mandate to be inclusive of all who share our beliefs, of all who share our beliefs, includes a responsibility to move from being colorblind to working to end anti-Blackness and unconscious bias. And again, I know that this is very hard work for some, and that for others it seems so obvious that you're frustrated we even have to spend time talking about it. And I know that some people view this anti-oppression work as an effort to shame those who struggle or don't agree that justice, equity, and inclusion are appropriate goals. But shaming and playing guilt aren't really what we're trying to do here. The bottom line here is that people are taught to be biased and to privilege the experiences of the white race and those with economic privilege over others. To undo this, we need to do some work. And the Commission suggests that we can engage our free and responsible search for truth and meaning in the work of self-discovery and learning about the systemic effects of oppression. We can unlearn what has been the norm of our society for hundreds of years. The Commission offers 3 primary recommendations as to how we do this. First, prioritize the development of resources that allow Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, and other targeted groups, those with different gender identities, those who are disabled, those who have sexual orientations different from our own, that we develop resources that allow all of these groups to address the effects of today's oppressions on their minds, bodies, and spirits. 2, that we create resources and tools to ensure a variety of entry points into the spiritual work of embracing one's own identity and the identity of others. This would include resources on healing religious wounds and productive conflict engagement as a core part of faith development. And the 3rd recommendation is to create a comprehensive path to understanding the work of equity, inclusion, and diversity as a part of faith development. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Next week, we'll talk more about what a movement based on liberation, not a liberal movement, but a movement with liberation as its goal, would look like. And next Wednesday, April 21st, in our monthly Widening the Circle discussion, we'll talk about how these particular recommendations could be embraced and implemented here at First Church. If you'd like to participate in this discussion, or would like a free copy of the Commission's report, which looks like this, please send an email to member-care@firstuu.com. I love Unitarian Universalism. I chose this faith. I didn't run to it because I left something else, because I was trying to get away from something else. I affirmatively chose to come here. I love it enough to realize that it is a living tradition, constantly evolving. I love it enough to admit that there have been several times when it hasn't lived up to its promises of inclusion and diversity. And I love it enough to believe that it's not too late to change and to expect that it will continue to change and evolve. For the sake of those among us today, for all those who came before us, and for those who will come after us, it must continue to change. I love it enough to believe that the young person who said that real transformation will happen in their lifetime was speaking truth. As Nancy Palmer Jones and Karen Lynn tell us in the opening of their book, Mistakes and Miracles, it takes intentional work and persistent commitment to build multicultural, anti-racist, beloved community. Mistakes and misgivings abound and are inevitable, but unexpected miracles of joy and transformation are abundant too. The journey itself, the companions who join in, the sometimes fleeting, often sacred sense of completeness that emerges in the midst of the journey, the satisfaction that we are living our faith, these elements make all the hard work meaningful and worthwhile. May we all be open to those miracles of joy and transformation whenever and wherever they occur.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. People all over the world are standing up, saying we ain't gonna take it no more. Speak truth to power, a change gon' come. This we know for sure. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution, it has come. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. The revolution has come. The revolution has come. The revolution has come. The revolution has come. We've won. We've already won. Hey, we won. Oh, the revolution. It's come, it's come, it's come.
The revolution has come. And we are all in it together. May we have the strength, the courage, and the curiosity to see it through. To continue to learn and to grow and to evolve and to change in ways that are helpful, healthy, and that promote justice, equity, and inclusion in our world. Let us now extinguish our chalice by reciting together the words that appear on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we transition from worship to our world of service, I'd like to share with you some announcements of things happening in the First Church community. The candidates for the Board of Trustees, as announced by board member Jane Hobson, are Amy Bottomley, Barbara Dickerson, and Kim Clokey. Please watch the newsletter and your email for the announcement of dates of the candidates' forums, which will be held in early May. Voting will occur at the congregational meeting on May 23rd. Our Widening the Circle of Concern discussion will happen on Wednesday, April 21st. Please note the change in time. There is a presentation on justice and policing methods in Cincinnati, sponsored by the FBI, that ends at 7 o'clock. So we will begin our discussion at 7:15 to allow those who want to attend both events to do so. On Friday, April 16th, we will be doing another training session on microaggressions. What are they? How do we interrupt them? How can they affect others and affect our community? This presentation workshop is open to anyone in Cincinnati or anyone anywhere because it's virtual and it's on Zoom. If you'd like to register, please send an email to member-care@firstuu.com. The common read for the Unitarian Universalist Association this year is Breathe, a Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry. The Cincinnati UU community has joined together to have a common discussion of this book. Sessions will be held on May 7th, 12th, and 21 from 10:30 to noon, and then repeating at 7 to 8:30. Please register before May 1st at the link that appears on the screen, or you can send an email to member-care@firstuu.com, and we'll make sure that you get the registration link.